The other main element of this dish is our chorizo. I'm not going to do accents or anything. Crack an egg on that, and I reckon that's a breakfast on its own. Perfectly reasonable lunch. Serve it with some steamed broccoli, or some roasted broccoli, or some veg, or a salad. And that's a dinner. And a pickled jalapenos. I don't know why I sang that. We're back. Well, I'm back. Hope you're back as well. Just give it a fold over, and you should start getting some crispy bits of potato. Try not to splash your white t-shirt because that chorizo will stain. Just notice this one. Uh-oh. Hi. Right, so I am making chorizo hash. I was about to say chorizo and potato hash, but saying that's a bit redundant because if it's a hash, it's already got the potato in it. So I've already done a bit of prep work. I'll go through all that in a second. I'm just sorting out the potatoes. I've washed them, I'm not going to bother peeling them. Nice and rustic, this one. Maris pipers, cut them in half, and now I'm just cutting them into, not wedges, like half discs, about, what is that, 5 centimetre thick. You haven't got to be precise about it. If you want to use, if you've got like a food processor with a slicer option on it, you can use that instead. Or if you want to be brave and get a mandolin out, you can do that as well. Or you can just cut them into cubes. It's completely up to you, whatever. As long as they're the sort of shape that isn't going to take forever to cook, because we're going to fry them off. All we're going to do with them is we're going to, got a pot of boiling water here already. Got some salt in there, not much, because we don't want to overload it with salt to begin with. And we're just going to carefully get these potatoes in there. And essentially, we're not even going to par cook them. We're not even going to take them to half. We're just going to kind of, essentially, we're blanching them. I'm just going to bring that up to a bit of a simmer. The other main element of this dish is our chorizo. I'm not going to do accents or anything. Only going to need half, because there's a lot of flavour here already. I'm going to chop it down the middle, and I'm also going to peel it. Just because you haven't got to do this, but it does just end up being a much nicer thing to eat if you don't have the stringy skin on it. Some do peel easier than others, I must admit. But if you can get it started, you can usually get the whole lot off in a relatively one big strip. Some scraps of skin left over aren't going to be a big deal. It's just sometimes these casings can be a bit thick, and you've got a whole chunk of it in your mouth. You end up just chewing on skin after a while. Don't have to do this if you don't want to. The skin is perfectly edible. So essentially, I'm just going to chop this down. That's good meat. Similar to how I sliced the potatoes, only a bit smaller, obviously, but little half medallions. Right, here, biggish pan on a medium-low heat. Gonna go in there with a little splash of vegetable oil. Probably gonna need a bit more later. And we're gonna go in there with our chorizo, and we're gonna start sweating that down, getting that tasty, tasty chorizo oil out of that chorizo into that pan. Should already start having a nice orange hue to the pan. So the rest of our mise is en place. So I've done a bit of prep work, try and keep the editing time down a bit. This is just sliced up onion, red, white, whatever. Use shallots if you want, shallots. There's a red pepper sliced up, green pepper sliced up, a green chilli sliced up, and that's all going in there as well. Now you want to be careful with salt in this because that chorizo is quite salty, but I am gonna go in there with a decent pinch just now because there's a lot of veg in there and it helps sweat that veg down. Also got a couple of cloves of sliced garlic. Chuck them in there as well. Good thing about this, you can mix and match if you've only got one colour pepper or if you want to leave out the peppers. Oh, don't boil over please. So I've done this with sliced up asparagus in there, courgette, kind of is a great little pantry staples. What have I got left in the fridge at the end of the week I want to use up? And you can make it out of like wherever you get off like yellow sticker price stuff in the supermarkets whenever at the end of the day. Anything really can go in this. I mean, you can even just make this leave out the potato if you want and just not call it a hash, although I suppose it kind of is a hash still, really. Right, so I haven't got much else really going on. I've got some pickled jalapenos that I'm going to add. They'll bring a bit of a heat as well, but there is already that chilli in there. But they're also going to add some acidity. Dry thyme, smoked paprika, cumin seeds. And I've got from the garden some parsley, just to add a bit of freshness to it all as well. I'm just going to hack that up. Can all just be nice and rustic, chucked together. We're not making Michelin star food here. This is midweek, nice and simple. And pull that to one side on here. And I'm going to do the same with the jalapenos. By all means, leave them whole, miss them out. If you want to add the acidity but you don't want the spice, go with capers would work. Be careful with the salt of the capers though. Or even just some minced up gherkin or cornichon. Or just, again, leave that out as well. Right, you want to be careful with these potatoes because we don't want to boil them into mash. We've sliced them quite thin. I'm just going to grab one out. Just give it a little prick with my knife, and if right in the middle there, the knife just pops through, yeah, that's all right. So they've only been in there a few, probably not even a minute. But what we're going to do, we're going to pour this, drain this into a colander or a strainer or whatever you got. Make sure that pan's nice and dry, and I'm just going to pour some of them back into the pan and leave some in the colander in the sink, because we just want them to steam dry a bit. Just want to let them steam dry for a little bit, just because we're going to fry them off a little bit and get some crispy colour to them. What we don't want is a load of water going in the pan from all the steam that's left on those potatoes. I'm going to go in here with a teaspoon maybe of whole cumin seeds, because I love the flavour of cumin, but I also like the pop of a cumin seed, but you can just use some cumin powder. Bit of smoked paprika, maybe a little bit under a tablespoon, and I've got fresh thyme, but I'm going to use a little dry thyme. But again, all of these are optional. You can go in with some coriander if you wanted coriander in there. Any sort of rosemary, thyme, sage, sort of herbs. Cayenne pepper if you really want to kick up the heat a bit. The world is your oyster. Or you can leave it all out, because it's still going to taste nice. That chorizo on its own is bringing so much flavour. All of this other stuff is just like gilding the lily almost. So now our potatoes will have steam dried a little bit. I'm just going to push everything to one side just for a minute. I'm going to go in with our potatoes, and all we're going to do is just fold them all amongst it. I am going to add a little bit more oil just because I want these to get a bit crispy. Fold everything through. Now we are just going to leave this to all cook down and hopefully get some crispy potato bits. Oh, I've just realised what I have forgotten. Black pepper. Nice crack of black pepper. Make sure everything's stirred to combined. Potatoes should have taken a nice bit of that orange and redness from the paprika and the chorizo. But yeah, I'm just going to leave that on the pan. I'm not going to keep stirring it because I almost want, like I think I've said it when I've made a hash before, but similar to almost like a paella. You want that bottom to get a bit crisp and crunchy. So let that crisp up, and then we'll come in and we'll give it a turn. So we're going to keep it on low, medium, low heat, just because we don't want anything to burn, but we want to slowly develop that crispy crunchiness. So probably back in maybe even like 10-15 minutes, but I'll keep an eye on it and I'll let you know. Alright, so it's been about 10 minutes. We'll give it a little more of a turn than a stir, because we want to break up all the crispy bits we've got. Just go underneath, and just give it a fold over, and you should start getting some crispy bits of potato. Try not to break the potatoes up either, that's why we didn't boil them to hell and back. And we're going to leave it another 10-15 minutes. And I've already done most of the washing up while I've been waiting, so it's a nice midweek, easy one. See you in a bit. We're back. Well, I'm back, hope you're back as well. So, you should now have some nice crispy crunchy bits on the bottom. Give that a stir, and we're just going to chuck in, we're pretty much done, our parsley. Freshen it up a bit, and I pickled jalapenos. Don't know why I sang that. Fold them through as well. Pretty much kill the heat now. I mean, if you wanted to bulk this out even more, You could tin a cannellini or borlotti beans or any sort of bean, not baked beans, although that wouldn't probably be horrible, but you'd lose the crispy crunchiness and it'd get a bit more stew casserole like. But I'm sure that'd be nice. But I mean, turn into a bit of a catchphrase, but crack an egg on this and you got breakfast. Actually, let me dish it up first. So just get a nice spoon and give yourself a nice big, oh, try not to chuck it all over your hob. There you go. Probably cooked enough here for 4 people. Well, so, crack an egg on that and I reckon that's a breakfast. On its own, perfectly reasonable lunch. Serve it with some steamed broccoli or some roasted broccoli or some veg or a salad. And that's a dinner. 1 pan pretty much, but you get all these nice little crispy bits of potato and the chorizo's in there because that's going to be lovely. If you don't fancy chorizo, whatever, you know, I ain't going to get into a pronunciation war. Any sausage, any meat, bit of bacon instead. Black pudding. I mean, I've made a black pudding hash already, so I've kind of retreading old waters there, but lovely, lovely, midweek, easy, 1 pot dish. Cannot go wrong. And that's that then. Bob's your auntie. Like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, on the YouTube. Subscribe, like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell. I'm going to have my dinner. And I'll see you when I see you. And that's pretty much that. Bye-bye.